talked about, you already had someone who spoke to you about budgets. They are essential. Now, I don't know whether you heard the person and went home and did it, or you heard the person and thought, well, I'll do it later on. And sometimes it's not at the front of your head, and it's not what you're used to doing, but get to that. Because when you have a budget, and you should have a budget for your Christmas shopping. You should have a budget for what you're spending on your kids. You should have a budget. How many are giving their kids an allowance? Nobody. Great. I've never had a group that they weren't giving their kids an allowance.
But it's for the needs, but not for the things they really want, and it's cost less. For the Christmas.
Nobody in here gives their kids an allowance?
If they do good grades,
oh, there's somebody back there. So just somebody who doesn't. Tell me why you don't. Did what? Oh, but they get an allowance. Okay. So is there anybody, yours don't get an allowance? How, well, she may have 6-month-old child. No. How,
she's 7.
She's 7. Okay. Why don't you give her an allowance?
She has to, I actually take her out instead of giving her money. So I tell her, if you do what you have to do, by Saturday we'll go out wherever you want to go. I mean, as in Chuck E. Cheese, the movies, or McDonald's. Those are her 3 choices.
Okay.
That's all I can afford right now.
Okay. One of the purposes of giving children allowances or money is because at some stage of their life, they have to learn what to do with money. So if they never have any money, they don't get the concept. So I can't tell you what you ought to give them, but I believe that you need to give them something. She's 7 years old. At 7 years old, she can begin to think, because if nothing else, out of her allowance, she has to add it up for a few weeks, then she pays for her own movie ticket. But they need the opportunity to know what money is about. They need the opportunity to know that money runs out. And I guarantee you, they do a lot different when it's their money. Because when you say to them, oh, let's go to the movies, you will be paying. I ain't going to the movies. Now, if you're paying, they're going to the movies, they want popcorn, they want the whole 9 yards. So they have to have the opportunity to understand that money runs out. If they have pets, if you have pets at home, and the pets belong to the kids, then the kids, out of their allowance, should be taking care of the pets' needs. So when you give an allowance, it has to be age appropriate. It has to be according to what your finances are, but they need to have something. And while you're calculating the allowance, it isn't a bad idea to figure in there what their expenses will be, and then that's really all you give them, just enough to cover getting the dog food. And maybe if the dog, you don't have to give them an abundance. Cover their expenses, and they don't have to have a lot more than that, because then they can go get themselves taking out the neighbor's trash. They have to learn what to do with money. If you're not the teacher, where are they going to find out? If you're not operating a budget, how will you know what to give them? Because what you also need to be doing is teaching them to budget their money. Yeah.
Ask how many folks in the class have a budget, a household budget now?
Everybody needs a budget. The less money we have, the more essential it is to have a budget. And let me say, I forgot this, I didn't even introduce myself. I am a parent of 6 children, a single parent that I hear, yeah, true. 15 years on welfare, went back to school when the last one was in a buggy. So when I tell you about budgeting and stretching money, I'm not reading from some book. Everything I share is what I learned in terms of living. I use food stamps before anybody would use them, because folks didn't want to use food stamps, because when you walk up to the cashier and you pull out your food stamps, everybody knows you pull. Now, I frankly didn't care. it made my welfare check go further by using food stamps. So this nonsense about pride, you do what you have to do. And when you're in that supermarket and the kid is talking about, oh, let's get this, let's get that, that's your lesson time. The first lesson is it wasn't on our list. And the second lesson is, how much is it? Then you make them start doing some math, and I guarantee you they leave you alone. Because you say, how many ounces are in there? Well, okay, so how much is it per ounce? Believe me, it's back on the shelf, because they're not going to deal with the math concept. So what you're really doing for your children is helping them. This is not a punishment to be on a budget. This is not a punishment not to have much money. This is really an opportunity for you to be prepared when you have more money. You know all them people who win the lottery and soon have no money? They had no concept of what money is and what you do with money. Now, I do not believe in paying children for their chores, because they're supposed to do the chores. Nobody pays me to mop the floor. So I like to set a standard, and that's what I mean in terms of a philosophy. This is how the household works. We all are part of the household. So if you begin paying your children to do what they indeed are supposed to do, I heard an interview with Warren Buffett, who's one of the wealthiest men in the world. And they were talking about ethics and values. And that's what you're establishing in your house, ethics and values. He was a little boy, and he had found somebody's wallet, and he took the wallet back, because it had the driver's license, I guess, address. He took it back to the man who'd lost it, and the man was overjoyed and gave him, it was many years ago, 50 cents. Or as the kids say, 50 cents. So he was really excited, and he went home and he told his mother, and his mother said, really? And she marched him right back to the man's house. And what she said was, you will not be rewarded for doing what you were supposed to do. I throw a lot of these things out as food for thought, because people afterwards go, that woman who was here last week, she was really crazy. Now, you know, if I find a wallet, I want a reward. You can think of it that way, or you can think of it as that is what you're supposed. Is that what we're supposed to do if we find something? Take it back? Now, are we taking it back because we're getting paid?